Shonen Jump is one of the biggest and most iconic manga magazines ever. It's given us some of the most iconic characters in pop culture. Characters like Luffy from One Piece, Goku from Dragon Ball, Naruto from Naruto, and Tenten. So when it was announced that Shonen Jump was going to be creating a fighting game similar to maybe Ninja Storm, but kind of like Smash Brothers where it has all their properties mixed in, let's just say I was oozing. Now, when the game first came out, there was, like with most games coming out, an initial wave of caution. Is this game going to be good? Is it going to be trash? Is this game going to be the next big fighting game that people are going to be playing for the next like 5 or 10 years? And while everyone was giving their opinions and kind of thoughts on the game as trailers were coming out, I feel like there was a kind of a known thing in the air with this game that Jump Force most likely was not going to be perfect and was going to have some issues. Now, let me start off by saying when Jump Force did come out and I got my hands on it, it was easily one of the most fun games I've played in a long time. Me and my nephew love playing versus like fighter games, so we saw a versus fighter anime game with the arena style and everything like that. It was pretty much an easy buy for us. When we first purchased the game, after all the general reviews had come out and overall thoughts had come out, we both kind of had pretty low expectations. We weren't expecting anything crazy or anything super amazing or phenomenal. And if I'm honest, anime games haven't really had a super good standard recently, so we just in general had honestly the lowest expectations you could have. I'd be lying if I said we expected anything else other than dog shit necessarily. But what we got surprisingly was not dog shit. I actually remember booting up the game with my nephew and us just scrolling through the characters for like 20 or 30 minutes, just pointing out which characters we knew, which characters we didn't know, which ones we heard of but didn't fully know who they were or whatever the fuck they were. The game had an almost really cool like end game kind of style feel to it, where it's like this whole team's coming together and you're trying to point out who you know and who's who from which universe and whatever. Now once we started actually playing the game, that's when it got really fun for us. See, me and my nephew aren't really competitive. I mean, like, we play competitive Overwatch, but we don't be joining like tournaments and Evo or anything like that. But I can't lie, we loved the game when we first started playing it. Just the idea of mixing these different teams around and learning all the different abilities that you could do and assisting and all this shit that you could figure out in the game was really, really fun. Seeing Gaara do his Sand Coliseum for the first time, being able to use Chidori versus any character you want, Luffy and Frieza literally fighting in the Hidden Leaf Village. It was super sick. It was kind of like this huge gangbang of anime stuff just forming into one big orgy, pretty much. And it was super cool. We played the game for weeks and for months, and eventually Shonen Jump decided to drop DLC characters, which is not new. Pretty much every fighting game out there has some form of DLC characters or pre-order bonus characters or something like that. And that's fine. These fighting games obviously need more long-term support, and I don't mind paying for new content. And I'll be honest, most of the DLC characters that did come out were pretty dope. We got My Hero, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Bleach, Hunter. So now that I'm done oozing over what was Jump Force, you might be shocked to know that Jump Force themselves announced on August 25th the service for the game basically and all the online functionality would be closing. So with all this praise, how did Jump Force last only an abysmal fucking 3 years? And 3 years in gaming is like a fucking fart. Black Ops 2, a game that just turned 10 years old, is still playable to this day, and I can go online right now and kill a bunch of people on fucking Call of Duty. What kind of shit is that? So what went wrong with Jump Force? Well, first, it has a story. See, this is the big thing that most game compilations do at the very first point when they're creating the game, is figure out, okay, is this game gonna be like Smash and have literally basically no fucking story, and just pretty much be a fun arena fighter and put all our energy into characters, the licensing, the soundtracks, the arenas, the fighting, combat, everything? Or do they actually go a story route and try to create an actual narrative that makes sense for why these characters are here and all together, and therefore kind of split costs with having a dedicated dialogue team, development team, all this stuff for just the story content? And this is my huge issue with this game. The story mode fucking sucks. Now let me make sure I understood this correctly. You're trying to bring in a ninja that can turn into a 9-tailed fox, a stretchy gum guy, Superman with a fucking ape mode, and their entire cast of characters, plus a bunch of other shit, into one cohesive story. And you thought that was gonna work? Not a chance in hell this shit would ever fucking work or make sense. It just wouldn't. There's just too much shit going on. There's no chance it would be focused enough. Now sure, there are some cool moments within the story, the opening cinematic, your very first fight, seeing Light from Death Note, but other than that, the story mode is what we anime losers would probably call filler. So when the game first came out, you had a huge chunk of the audience that was understandably upset because this big Avengers style team up that they had teased through all these trailers and stuff like that was extremely boring and extremely unmotivating to continue playing the game after that. And while the other side was like, yeah, there's a story that sucks, but who cares? The fighting kicks ass. The issue of this whole story mode fiasco led a lot of people to just completely not even pick up Jump Force or to buy it and then completely ditch it right afterwards. So you had this issue when the game first came out. People would immediately leave from the start because the story sucked. And in my opinion, this initial drop off from like the initial launch itself was something that Jump Force never fully recovered from. And my idea, honestly, they should have scrapped the idea of any fucking story mode or campaign at all. Like I said, just make one coherent story with all these characters is just weird. It doesn't make sense. You're dealing with a bunch of power scaling and just dumb shit that just doesn't need to be there. And they honestly should have just gone the route of Smash and said, hey nerds, you like DBZ? You like Naruto? You like One Piece? Here's Jump Force. Buy it. And that was the issue, is they marketed this game and pushed it as a huge amalgamation of amalgamation, I don't know what I wrote, of characters pretty much going into this huge epic story to save the world and battle to save all their universes and shit, right? And what they should have done is pitched it as almost a greatest hits of anime characters just kicking each other's ass. So of course the story was a problem, and I think it definitely hurt the game more than helped it. And overall probably would have been better if the game, instead of putting resources into that, just kind of dumped it all into actually just pushing the game forward and more stuff for the game itself, such as making the combat better and getting more characters in the game. And surprisingly, those 2 points are probably some of the biggest weaknesses of this game, and which led to Jump Force's eventual downfall. See, the fighting and combat, while me, a honestly filthy casual, could enjoy and be entertained with, a large portion of the competitive side of this game slammed the combat as basic and easy to exploit, or flat out said it's just not a good fighting game period and would rather play other arena fighters like Ninja Storm. And I gotta be honest, I kind of agree. While the game had a lot of room for combat and different moves and combos and shit, it didn't have the massive floor and ceilings that Mortal Kombat or Smash have, where a shit player can get into the game and play and still have fun in the most basic and casual way, and a god tier player can also still play the exact same game and get satisfaction out of pulling out crazy moves and crazy combos. And I'm not gonna let the game forget this either. The game was one of the worst games in terms of exploiting animations and animation canceling and speed. There was literally animations that would blind a whole screen, so while you were blinded you could come in and spam your assist or do a bunch of other stuff, and none of that stuff ever got fixed, patched, or taken out or nerfed or anything really. At least not enough to fully change the game or benefit it in any way. So again, the combat could have been more focused. And let me be clear, I don't think there's just 1 or 2 simple mistakes with this game. I think there's a ton of questionable decisions made here. Firstly, why the fuck is there a hub world in this goddamn game? I have no fucking idea why fighting games or games in general that aren't even open world feel the need to have a hub world built in instead of an actual just fucking menu. They're way longer to navigate. They take almost always longer to load because instead of just loading a fucking menu, you're loading assets and basically another portion of the game. And they also just are way more confusing and unnecessary. Why? I don't get it. I just don't feel the need to put it in this huge sluggish mess instead of, I don't know, like an actual quick, easy functioning fucking menu. I think the only way that the hub world would make sense in this game or any other kind of fighting game, and hear me out, I think it sounds pretty dope, is if you had kind of like a Dragon Ball setup kind of in the open world. Think like My Park from 2K, where you can kind of walk around a park or walk around like a tournament and see other fights going on in arenas and stuff like that. Sure, it might not look exactly 1-to-1 or it might not be as up to date with the actual fighting that's going on the player side, but that's the only real reason I could see for a hub world. And that is honestly a really cool idea. Fucking, oh my god, EA, whoever, Blizzard, Activision, actually no, not you guys, because y'all are weird, but someone hit me up, because that's a super sick idea, being able to walk through like a tournament and see fighting rings and stuff like that with other online players in matches fighting. That's pretty dope. So with this stupid ass hub world, we now have another issue of wasted resources, money, time, and development on something that just does not need to be there. They did not need to spend all this time making stuff that just is filler, basically. And so that just makes no sense. And you know what also makes no fucking sense? When me and my friend are playing a versus game against each other online, and when the match ends, we're like, dude, that was so sick, like that was so dope, the fighting, oh my god, that was awesome. But we're like, okay, let's switch characters. The game doesn't have a fucking switch characters option. The only options is either to rematch the exact same match, so same level, same characters, everything, end the game, or like save as like a fucking replay or some dumb shit. Literally just the option to change a character would make this game so much more fun for me. Because now if I play with my friend and okay, I'm bored with my team or they're bored with their team, or I just want to change out one fucking character, I literally have to go quit the match, go back to the stupid ass fucking hub world, go there, go to online, wait for the stupid ass sluggish ass servers to load, go ahead and wait for that shit to come up, pick my characters, go through, invite them all over again, wait for their shit to load, wait for them to pick their characters, and then wait for both of our games to load together, and then the game finally fucking loads. Versus the game just taking me and my friend back to the character select screen, we're now having to go through this whole fucking redo of the whole game, and it's stupid. Literally just adding a change character fucking button would have changed the world for this game in the best way possible, and I know it. I know I'm not the only one that feels this way. way. I haven't checked or looked at Reddit forums or anything, but I know I'm not the only one that was begging for a change character option. And that's kind of the big thing here, is that a lot of the small details were completely overlooked and has never even got attention from the developers. They spent so much time on shit that no actual fighting game needs or fighting game player actually fucking wants. Any person that plays a fighting game ever, within just a day of testing this game, would say, hey, yeah, there should be a change character option. Why is that not there? Speaking of small details that were missed here, first of all, maybe put like a cool fucking loading screen. This is literally a Shonen Jump game. They own all the manga, and I'm pretty sure they own the rights to, I guess, the anime, right? They have to, and they're Shonen Jump. They own the rights to this shit. Instead of putting like artwork, manga panels, just amazing scenes, just something so magical and beautiful on the screen, we get this dumb fucking loading screen with hints and shit on it. Dude, like, do you not like what is it, like literally Injustice 2 has cooler loading screens in this fucking game. I don't get why they thought a game with all these rich characters with some of the most beautiful artwork ever done in pop culture isn't having any of it displayed. At the one time where displaying shit on screen is fine. Like, I don't get it. Also, another thing, I know a lot of people are actually gonna hate me when I say this shit, but it's a fact. It's a fact and it's true. The game suffers a lot from not having a dub option. The game, when you get it and you open it and everything like that, and whenever the characters are talking, it's all in subs. You get the sub audio with the subtitles there. That's fine. If you like sub, perfect. You're good to go. But for any people in the fucking world that consume any of these shows via dub, they're pretty much fucked over. And again, I don't understand why. Shonen Jump owns the rights to these animes, at least from what I know. I don't know why they can't just shove the dub in there. Maybe there's some issues with other publishers or other licensing deals, but that's also on the topic here. The small details. They should have gone through the effort and time and energy to put dub as an option in the game. Or even, honestly, they could have fucking sold the dub as DLC. I would gladly pay $5, $10, even maybe $15 for a dub pack over the game where it changes all the voices to dub. Games like Call of Duty were doing voice packs years ago. There's no reason why this game couldn't do it when it's literally known for having two different kinds of voices for every character in the fucking, like, I don't... And I get it, there's preferences. Some people prefer dub, some people prefer sub, some shows don't even have a dub at all. But it's undeniable that a person that is into anime but only is into the dubs or whatever would have gladly picked up this game knowing that there was a dub option. And I know there's probably a handful of people that either picked up the game, opened it, saw it was sub, tried playing it and getting into it, maybe just couldn't get into it because the voice acting just wasn't there for them. Or there's probably a bunch of people that just saw the game has no dub option period and just didn't even bother picking it up. And there's gonna be a ton of people I know that are gonna be saying, oh, that was way too expensive, you expect them to get all the rights to this shit, all this stuff. In anime, dub or sub is such a huge key part to the experience of anime, whichever option you pick. You literally can't deny that having both options in an anime game with all these characters that's meant to be this huge epic story with all these different universes coming together is kind of important. Like, I feel like am I crazy for feeling that? I don't know. I watch animes in both sub and dub, just depending on which one is honestly easiest to access for me, but for those that have a preference to dub, they were kind of screwed over with this game. And if I'm honest, there's not a single part of this game that looks or feels like they really put time and energy and care into it. Everything just feels okay or alright. Nothing shines the way it should. You can tell that there was no risk or energy put into making this game the best game that Shonen Jump could make. But instead we were handed a bare minimum game that just functioned and worked and looked decent as a marketing scheme, but realistically as an actual game, I mean, it's proven it didn't even last longer than 3 years. That's also something I think screams with this game, with both Shonen Jump and with Bandai, who they've worked with for a long time on a ton of games. So you can't say, oh, it's a new developer, they don't know what they're doing, they have low budgets. You can't say any of that because Shonen Jump literally owns all this shit. It shouldn't cost them a lot of money to use their own characters and their own licenses. Pretty much everything should have been on the actual development and the servers, and I don't know why that was so hard. But I think also one of the big things is that when the game was being shown off and marketed to people, I don't think Shonen Jump or Bandai knew who they were marketing the game towards. It was really unclear. Is this game catering to long-term anime fans, like people that have watched Saint Seiya and City Hunter, the deep anime, full-on, that's all they watch type shit, Crunchyroll subscription head ass? Or was it geared more towards the new gen fans, the people that be watching their anime on Netflix and Hulu? Ew. And this is made even more obvious the further we look into the character roster itself. Now, I did say this game has solid characters, and it does, but that doesn't mean that there was enough characters or that the game has the correct characters. I'm just saying the characters that this game does have are solid. Now, like I said before, this game is being made by Bandai and Shonen Jump. Shonen Jump owns pretty much all these characters from what I know, so it should be just as easy as Nintendo using Mario and Smash. Who do they have to double check with? Themselves. That's pretty much it, right? Sure, there's probably some extra deals and financial shit going on in the background, but now this is just me, a loser nobody who makes anime videos on YouTube, looking in and kind of giving my thoughts on this situation. So maybe it's way more complex complex than I'm making it out to seem. Maybe there's a ton of drama internally with Bandai and Shonen Jump on what characters to use, but at face value, as a Shonen Jump game, it should be pretty easy to put in as many Shonen Jump characters as we can, right? So tell me why the fuck this game releases with 6 Naruto characters. Okay, Naruto's a huge series, one of its biggest series of all time. Of course, putting 6 characters in, that's expected, right? Okay, we got 6 One Piece characters. Again, another huge staple series. It's expected that these huge staple series are gonna kind of be front and center. I mean, they literally are front and center on the box. But we look at other series that were just coming out at the time. My Hero, arguably one of the biggest new gens of all time right now. It's still currently going. The manga's still going. I think it's gonna end maybe in a year or 2 from now, but it's still currently going. The movie just came out. It's a big hit series, super popular. The game launches with one My Hero character. Okay, maybe I don't know why. Maybe they did that just because they're fucking losers, right? Okay, they launched the game with one Black Clover character. And I can hear a lot of people saying, oh, Black Clover is not best new gen, all this shit. Point is, Black Clover at the time that this was coming out, and even before then, was doing pretty decently in terms of manga and anime wise. It was doing decent, enough to at least warrant more than one character being in the game, at least in base game. And this is my biggest issue with the character selection here. And fine, they made sure to include a bunch of iconic characters like Zoro, Yu-Gi-Oh, Ichigo, and a bunch of stuff like that. And that's cool. But it wasn't enough. The game didn't need to come out with 100 characters and every single fucking character in every anime with a full-blown moveset or anything like that. But literally Shonen Jump owns 100 different series. And out of all those over 100 series, they only showcase 15 series in the base game. And now you might be like, damn, 15, that's a lot. It's 15, maybe 6 a piece, maybe a few with one, right? Maybe. That sounds like it could be a good amount, right? No, literally majority of them only have 1 or 2 characters. The handful that have 6 are the big ones like Bleach and Naruto and stuff like that. Now again, I'm not saying the game needs 100 characters to be considered a good game. But when it's literally being teased as, like I said, a who's who of anime, it's being teased as this huge game where all these characters, all these universes are finally coming together. And the game already has a super shallow combat system. It already has basically no fucking story mode. What do you have left to rely on then? The coolness of your characters. How cool does it feel to play as Naruto? How cool does it feel to be Luffy and smack down on another character? How cool is that? That's the only thing the game has now at this point. So we're dealing with a pretty, I think it could be considered an okay roster, but the point is that everything in the game was so barely below average that an okay roster doesn't look okay now. It looks like shit now because everything in the game is also kind of at that level, so it just brings it down. So we have a super limited roster, and also keep in mind, while this was coming out, DLC characters were constantly being pushed and delayed, constantly. And so you could definitely say that these characters being delayed led to the fan base getting bored, just waiting for new characters with a story mode that's ass, a combat system that's kind of trash, an online system that was constantly just buggy and not working properly. It was really hard to be motivated to play this game unless you and a friend were super into it. Now there's a major focus on older, more iconic anime, at least on the base game. And that's good. I love that Shonen Jump isn't choosing to ignore its history and actually bringing in older characters that maybe everyone doesn't know about. It chooses to pay respects to stuff like Saint Seiya or Saint Seiya, whatever. And even stuff that's not super mainstream, something like City Hunter, where if I ask the average person on the street if they've watched Naruto or heard of Naruto, they'll probably be like, maybe. If I ask them if they know what City Hunter is, they're probably gonna be like, what the fuck is that? And that's the issue. The game didn't know if it was targeting old anime fans or newer new gen anime fans, so it kind of just tried to do something of everything, but I think ultimately it left both sides disappointed. And that's the issue with this game, is it tries to please the newer new gen fans and also the older, more low-key fans that probably know a lot more of the older shit. And it doesn't feel like each side was satisfied really. And that's the issue. It wasn't like they needed more iconic older characters from really low-key series, or they needed more popular characters from more popular current running series. It's just the fact that the roster as a whole wasn't big enough. Like I said, at this point, this game is a skeleton. There's really not much holding up this game other than the fact that it's just cool anime characters that do cool fight shit, and that's it. Visually, that's all you're really there for, is seeing Goku smack Zoro around and see him kind of get defeated and shit like that, right? You're not here for the story, or even the combat necessarily isn't super deep, like I said. And there's just huge glaring issues with the roster. For example, a lot of the big teams in these animes aren't even here. Straw Hats are pretty much absent. Obviously, we get a good portion of them here, and I'm not expecting them to put like Nami in the game, but the full team isn't here. And I feel like that's an obvious issue if you're gonna try to pay homage to One Piece. At least having the main team is kind of important, right? Same thing with Naruto. They choose to have Kaguya and Gaara, but no one from the fucking Akatsuki is in the game. Like, it makes no sense. And I'm sorry, but I think any of the series that were in the base game or even the DLC or whatever that just has one character, that should have never been allowed. They should have been minimum 3 characters per series, no matter what. Stuff like City Hunter obviously has kind of a little bit harder time finding as iconic characters to put in there maybe, but you're honestly wasting your time getting my hero, but only putting Deku in at the base, or bringing Black Clover in and not bringing Yami in. It just makes no sense. The base roster was lacking to say the least. And that's the thing, is they could choose from a bunch of different series. We have stuff like Gintama, Demon Slayer, Toriko, JJK, which did debut in 2017, so it definitely could have made the cut possibly. And also Chainsaw Man, which I know that's a newer thing, so maybe you're saying they didn't have time to put Chainsaw Man in. You're crazy. Why would they do that? But that's the thing, is Chainsaw Man is one of the most iconic, biggest characters to come out of Shonen Jump in a long time, and there was no mention of him in DLC or anything, period. And yeah, I know people are probably saying, Chainsaw Man is not Shonen Jump. It's literally on the Shonen Jump app, bro. Chainsaw Man is Shonen Jump. Maybe it's not Shonen Jump anymore, I think, after this first part, but it is, at least for this first part, Shonen Jump. So I don't know, maybe there's some weird stuff with Chainsaw Man, I don't know. But that's just the base roster. We haven't even talked about the DLC yet. The DLC is similar but different. We got some heavy hitters. We got All Might for My Hero, so we are adding to that team. We got Majin Buu, Miram, Kaiba, and a good amount of other characters in general. However, this shows how little of a shit Bandai and Shonen Jump gave a fuck about this game, or even the community that was still playing the game at the time. Because if you look anywhere on Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, anywhere about wanted characters for this game, there are literally so many characters that are constantly being brought up, that are being begged for by the fans, that are not showing up. For example, you have something like Smash, where people were begging for Banjo, people were begging for Steve for some reason. There was people begging for these characters, and Nintendo at least somewhat went out of their way to acquire these characters. Obviously there's meme characters like Master Chief and the Forza car that are probably not going to be coming in the game, but they, at least from the most part, were able to listen to what people wanted and were requesting, you know? Shonen Jump didn't give a shit about what anyone wanted. And I did mention it before, and I'm still super salty. There's no fucking Yami in this game. Yami is one of the coolest fighting style sword wielding characters in a long time. And if you look at any list of wanted characters or requested characters for Shonen Jump to be in Jump Force, Yami's almost always at the very top of that list. And through all my vast research, it looks like all the DLC characters were only adding characters to already existing franchises and series in the game. None of the DLC characters added any new series in. So these dirty sons of bitches didn't even add any new franchises into the already established game to improve on the amount of series being displayed. So for any fans of Haiku, and don't even fucking say shit, Smash was able to put the Wii Fighter yoga instructor character into the fucking game. You can put a fucking character from Haiku in this shit. Don't talk to me. They don't put Haiku. They don't put Dr. Stone, Blue Exorcist, Claymore, Kaiju number 8, Mashal, One Punch Man, Seraph of the End, Tokyo Ghoul, Undead Unluck, World Trigger, fucking Zip Man, dude. There's so much fucking things that you could have chosen from to add into this game, and they chose nothing. They chose, hey, we have these few series in here. Let's just add to them. Let's not fucking, I don't know, do something new. Bring in a new series. Bring in a heavily requested character from one of these Reddit threads that keeps popping up every fucking 20 minutes. And this sucks, because I know there's a ton of people that probably looked at the initial roster that this game came out with and probably looked at it and was like, that's a fine roster, but not my favorite characters are in there, so I'm just gonna ignore this game. Maybe I'll come back to it once the DLC is out. DLC comes out, they look back at it and they're like, okay, so they literally didn't add any new series. Okay. And they probably completely dropped off from the game at all and just didn't even consider buying it. Again, I don't know the logistics of acquiring these characters and putting them in, so maybe it's a deeper issue than I initially realized. Maybe Shonen Jump only allowed Bandai a certain amount of characters to use or a certain series to use. It is a known thing that Japan is pretty weird with their licensing and copyright, so that's very possible. But in my opinion, if they couldn't truly add as much characters as possible and just fill this game up to the rim with absolute god tier characters, then I just don't know what the fucking purpose of making this game was. And that's the thing, is they had the chance to add characters through DLC and they chose not to. Jump Force could have been great. Jump Force could have eclipsed other fighting games. It could have been the actual fucking competition that Smash Bros needs. But instead it's seen as most as a disappointment, a waste of time and money. And now since it's closing its servers, it's seen as even worse, a dead game. And that's what sucks the most for me, is seeing a game that's literally backed by one of the biggest anime and manga companies to be killed off so quickly, so fast, in an almost embarrassing way. The game was almost left to die by its developers, its publishers, everyone tied to it. I can still boot up Black Ops 2. I can still play and buy the DLC maps for Black Ops 2. I can still play with my friends online and have a great time. And while they aren't locking away any of your DLC content that you paid for, they're stopping you from purchasing the game digitally and also purchasing any more DLC content. So if you were a new fan and you wanted to get into this game just for local play only, you will never be able to touch any DLC character, and that sucks. So they're basically turning off the game servers and forcing it to die. Rather than just turning off the online servers and leaving it up on the store to purchase, they're kind of forcing it in its own grave. A lack of characters, a lack of depth in its fighting and combat systems, and a weird focus on a story that just never needed to exist in the first place isn't what killed this game. In my opinion, Shonen Jump and Bandai killed this game. From their lack of effort, lack of support, lack of energy, and honestly, his lack of actually caring about their properties. And that's the crazy part is there's games that have come out like No Man's Sky where they have a shit launch and then they just get better and better through updates and through patches and DLC and stuff like that. If this game came out with its base roster and said, hey, you know what, we realize this isn't the roster that everyone wants, or hey, the fighting needs to be fixed, or hey, you want a dub add-on DLC, here's $15, buy it, I think the community would have rallied behind a game trying to fix itself and trying to do better for its community. And there's a part of me that thinks they could have just cut out the story entirely, and if the player base requested a story mode, they could have just added it and charged it as an add-on, charged it as a story add-on. A lot of games do that, where they have an add-on afterwards that is either to push the story forward or to add modes and stuff like that. This game could have done that too, and they just chose not to do anything. They just chose to leave us with a disappointing story and a skeleton of a game, really. All I know is that games like Battlefront 2 and No Man's Sky showed us that games don't have to just be there left to die. With some TLC and an actual community behind it, and some real genuine thought behind the decisions being made for the game, I think Jump Force could have made a comeback, or at least had a solid foundation to launch maybe Jump Force 2 at a later date. But because of poor choices, bad marketing, and no real effort given by anyone that was making the game, obviously I'm talking company-wise, those probably amazing developers that were on board that cared, but in terms of the actual companies caring or trying to go out of their way to do anything, it seems like for the most part they were all okay with Jump Force being remembered pretty negatively. If Shonen Jump ever decides to make another compilation fighting game like this, please focus on the characters and the combat first. At the soul of a fighting game, that's what you have, the characters and the fighting itself. No one wants to play as a loser and no one wants to fight like a loser. Making sure that you are playing as great characters from the series that you love in a way that properly displays those characters, or at least makes you feel good playing those characters, is super important. I mean, there's hope for the future. Shonen Jump is a massive company with bankroll to really push them to whatever game they want to make, and they'll most likely come back to this idea at some point in the future. However, I'm hoping that those that were burned by Jump Force, if they see that Shonen Jump and Bandai or whoever is making the game do come from a genuine place of wanting to make the best game possible, do at least give them a second chance. Maybe not for the companies, but more or less to support these series and the creators behind them. Did you guys like Jump Force? Did you ever even play it? Did you stay far as fuck away from the dumpster fire that was this game? What are your thoughts on this game and the thoughts on overall shutting it down after only 3 years of being out? Leave your comments below, go ahead and like and subscribe on this video, follow my TikTok, follow my Instagram, and thanks for spending your time with me. Thanks for watching the video. Have a good one.